Hey, Tyler, we're back.
We're back in it. Welcome to the winter, everybody.
Yes, dSIPRouter Weekly is back. My name is Mac Hendricks,
And
and
I'm
I am
Tyler
with
Moore.
my buddy. Who are you?
Tyler Moore.
All right,
Jumped in a little
and
early. Sorry.
yeah, that's all good. It's all good. And it's cold outside, so I have my fluffy hat on here. I figured I would come. Tyler, sometimes you have different hats and stuff on, so I was like, you know what?
Got the wool on today. It's still a little cold here. I think you guys are colder out in Michigan.
We are today, man. It is pretty it's pretty crazy how cold it is. It is, I'm just looking here. I think it's like 20 something degrees here, but with the wind chill it feels even colder. But um so yeah, welcome everybody back to our our weekly podcast. And sometimes it's bi-weekly, sometimes it's bi-monthly, whatever. We're trying to get better at being consistent with it. But this week we are going to talk about something that a lot of people have asked us about, either directly or indirectly, and that is having a way of making some of the settings for dSIPRouter available in the UI. And so for the upcoming release, we have started down that journey. And I'm going to talk about that, and Tyler's going to actually give some commentary about this. You're going to kind of see in live, real time, some of the issues we're running into and some of the things we got to overcome in order to get these settings in the UI. Because we all have to remember the history of dSIPRouter is that in the very beginning, we just had a settings file and that's all we had. Tyler added in the ability to sync these settings files with a database, which is important when you're building out a cluster. So now we have to now expose these fields in the UI, and there's certain challenges that I've been running against, and then you'll hear me and Tyler talk through it. So I figured, Tyler, this would be a great way to get people kind of along for the journey. So what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Let's let's dive right into it. You guys can see some of the engineering problems that we had behind the scenes. Little peek under the covers here, and yeah, take it away, Mac.
Yeah, so let me get logged in. I guess that's the first thing into the UI, and then we'll kind of start there, and then we'll talk through um, some of the issues. So let me bring up and I'll share another screen, and wish it could always be like you can do multiple screens, but it's kind of you really can't. But that's fine. All right. So I'm logged into my test instance of dSIPRouter, and there is underneath system settings, which we're all used to. There's a thing called global settings now, and I'll explain. And Tyler, we haven't talked yet, so you guys are here in real time. So Tyler always comes up with better names and stuff. So like Tyler may be like, this is maybe a different name, but the key here is that is a couple of things. One is that I want people as we grow dSIPRouter, and the other thing you're going to see that we haven't talked about yet is this modular architecture so that you can add modules much easier. And we've been talking about that for a while. And these modules are also going to have, in some cases, some settings that need to be set. So we wanted to make sure the settings architecture can support the ability to add new settings. And like when you install a new module in dSIP, yeah, it's going to come with some settings probably already configured or enabled, will automatically set them. But there may be situations where you need to add new settings. And so that's why we have this add new settings. So you can add a settings key and you can add a settings value. Now, one of the things that we may add is maybe another field here for specifying what module it's for. But right now, our format is that typically, if it's a module, we have the module name underscore the name of the attribute, and then and then whatever attribute it is, and then the setting. Um, so we may make it a little bit more simplistic there. But anyway, and then you have current settings. So these are all the settings that are in dSIPRouter, kind of. These are all the ones that we want to expose to you so that you don't hurt yourself. Like there's there's a lot of settings in here that we're not going to expose because you will hurt yourself. Meaning that if you make changes to them without knowing or not being controlled environment, they may cause the system to become non-working or become make the system not work anymore. So so anyway, these are all the ones that were here. So you'll notice that like things that has to do with certain passwords, we filter that out. You can't make those changes with the UI, and the reason why, for instance, like if you want to be able to change the password of the dSIPRouter UI, which is what we're logged into, uh, we have a function for that already, right? So we have an ability for you to change the password there, and it handles encrypting it and things of that nature. So right now, you can't do that. But as I was speaking, I was thinking like, well, we could, if they set the password, we could just re-encrypt it. We just don't want to show it. So we may, I guess maybe, Tyler, I'm just thinking maybe we will allow them to set a password with the API, but they only can set it. They can't get it, but they can set it, and they can automatically be encrypted and all that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we can talk about it. I don't know what your thoughts is about that.
Yeah, I mean, if they if they logged in with those credentials, they know the password, so not that big of an issue. There with the passwords and stuff, it does get a little tricky. To Mac's point there, like the UI one, you have to like you'll have to either save the session or refresh the session, so that that they're still logged in, like if you do it live.
Right.
Um, and then when they log out and log back in, it's going to be the new password. So there's a little bit of handling there. On the like database password, it's even a little bit more difficult because that's where all of these settings are, coming from. It's and where the UI is getting all the settings from. So if you're changing that live, it's got to be like kind of synchronized up.
Yes. Um, so and that's the other thing too. Like right now we keep settings in the UI in the settings.py file, and so a config file, and we also set it inside of the database. And right now by default, when you restart dSIPRouter, it will basically sync whatever's in the file with whatever's in the database. That's the current setting. Now we could flip that setting, I guess, Tyler. This is more of a question than anything. I guess we could flip that so that it's now database stored and then we sync with the file. So basically, the database becomes the source or the master of the data. But I don't know. So my design mechanism, I didn't want to change the way things work today.
Mhm.
So anytime we needed to change stuff, right now in my mind, it's going to update the settings.py file, and then we either trigger an update after we make a change, like when we add a new setting or we make a change, then it will populate the database. That way, we keep it consistent on how it works today. But I mean, I'm not tied to one or the other. So I just wanted to maybe bring that up, and we don't have to make a decision now, but I just want to, see if you have any thoughts on that, or you feel, a certain way about one way or the other.
Yeah, so we part of that is like if you want to once we got to clustering, you had to get these into the database. Uh,
Right.
and we could have moved everything to the database, but you still have to have the database connection stored somewhere. And in Python, a very easy way to be able to reuse your settings all around without doing some shared memory finagling, or storing it somewhere else is just to have it in a separate module. So we just settings.py is just its own file. It gets imported everywhere. And when it's imported, twice or imported in different places, it doesn't like re-import. It's the same. It just used that same module that's in memory. So it's a very easy way to like just use the settings all over the project, but it also kind of pigeonholes us to having to sync up this file. So eventually we will like pull just the database connection. This is like the long term, probably not this release, but pull the
Right.
connection, the database connection into one settings file. And that really, you can only change on installer manually. And then you reboot the server, and then everything else would be in the database. That's kind of the standard way for
Yep.
once you
I
once you get enough settings.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the way. Right now, I have an array set up that basically for things that we don't want to include. So when we grab this data, when we get the data from the database, we filter out fields we do not want to expose to folks. And I'm going to get a little bit. So you actually brought up something that we will need to address. So let me jump into the command. Let me actually, there's two things here. I'm going to do two things because I don't want to make this too long of a meeting, because me and you we can get going on these things for a while. But let me just show a
Yep.
couple of things here, and let's see here. Stop screen. Let's bring up another screen here. Okay. So one of the things here is that just like everything else we have in DSIP, we wanted to have I'll make this a little bit bigger so that people can see it. I wanted to actually have an API for it. So it's all backed by an API. And so if I run this, I got to get authenticated again. Hold on for a second. I got to change to my dSIP environment testing. I think this will give me what I need. Cool. So basically it looks a little messy here because let me make this a little bit here. Okay, that looks better. Okay. But anyway, so as you can tell here, this API, very simple APIs. We have a setting API that does get, posts, put all the things that's needed to make it a standard API. And you'll notice it's the same elements here that we're grabbing. And so so the filtering is actually happening at the API level. And that's what you're actually seeing when you look at the GUI. So point here is that we have an API for settings. So as we progress through and we want to allow people to, if you want to automate things, so you want to install dSIPRouter and then you want to set a number of settings on installation, you'll be able to do that using this API. So you can automate a lot of this. Or if we decide to create a Terraform provider, or if one of you out there decide to create a Terraform provider, you can incorporate in the ability to make certain attribute and settings changes when you're deploying dSIP.
Yeah, that'll be really useful. One of the things I want to mention, though,
Sure.
excuse me, while you're going through this, is that we're going to have some metadata tied to this. Reason being, some settings can be hot reloaded. Some require different services to be reloaded. So like a Camellia specific setting, some of them, you have to restart the service. Some of them you can hot reload into the config. Some of them, like if you're changing the dSIPRouter listening port, it could be like Nginx and the dSIPRouter UI or the API as well. So we're gonna have to, I think, get that handled.
Yeah. So right now, if you this is one of the things that we may have to figure out more. So right now, if you want to make a setting change, here the body is here. Let me make this. So right now, I only have the ability to, and we can change this. I only have the, first of all, you can give it the key that you're changing, then you give it the value. I went back and forth on this. Like there's multiple ways we can do this. Like right now, to your point, I'm doing it this way because now I don't have this metadata here just yet, but here, let me just send this over real quick. But what happens right now, I send back the whole thing, which in this case it didn't change because it won't change because of something I'm about to talk about in a second. But
Okay.
right now, when you make a change, it sends back everything here. And what we will end up probably doing is making it so that it has the option to send back if you need to reload or not, or something that's some metadata that tells them what the next step is. Or um, we could do something like we know what values needs this restart, and we could have an option that like allows us to restart or reload Camilio before we once we get that. I don't know. It gets tricky because if you make a mistake and you make a change and you're like, oh no, I don't want to make that change, and you send another GET request, you can fix it before you kill the server or something of that nature. So I don't know. We have to think through that one. So that's a good one.
Well, the way
Um,
the way that we've been doing that with the UI
yeah,
is that we stage all the changes. You know, it
right.
goes into DB, it goes into file, wherever, the storage is. And
And
then
th-
we tell them like, hey, it's you need to reload this thing so that they can, when ready, do those
yeah,
changes.
and I think now that you said that and you said it out loud, we want to keep that consistency, I think. And
Mhm.
so we would make the change, and maybe the meta will tell them that they need to do a reload. Kind of what we do now with some of our APIs. We were like, oh, reload is required. Like right
Yep.
here, like the status, like right now, when you have a bunch, that's why I kept it as one, like one attributes you were changing, because if you have a whole bunch of attributes you're changing, they're going to have some of them are going to be like you need to reload, you don't need to reload. Or we could take it under the situation where if any of the changes that they're making require a reload, then we just say it's going to either be a CAN reload or a dSIP reload. Like, you know what I mean? Like we won't have to go by each attribute, but like, oh yeah, you changed this attribute, this is not a reload, other attribute is a reload. This, if any of them require a reload for either Camilio or dSIP, we'll toggle on true or false.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
we can talk about that a little bit more.
yeah.
I think that's a pretty good overview though. I really like the API
So
so
so there's
far. Like, I think there's
there's
some
one
touching up
there's
we can
one
do,
issue.
but
There's
oh,
one issue.
what's that?
Okay, there's one issue that we have to resolve, and that issue is not a it's not a big thing. I'm gonna go over to just to kind of lay up this particular issue. Let me remove that share again. Sorry everybody. This the way our streaming platform was, I only can like share one screen at one time. I'm gonna go over to here over to Visual Studio. And so for those who know how these things work in Camilio, that's great. But for those who don't, let me just share. Let me just do another terminal here. So I'm on this is my dSIPRouter instance. I'm just going to look at my dSIPRouter oops settings here. All right. So in Python, um, like in order to have a traditional config file, is what they call it, you will have to have like sections in your config file. And that's what makes it a valid config file. So like you can have everything under default, for example. And if you do that, then I can use the config. There's an API in Python that allows you to go and modify these. So when we save settings, it'll allow us to save the settings in the settings.py file. And then following our normal process, the settings will then be synced to the database. Right now, I can't modify it with the config parser API because in our file today, we don't have we don't have sections in our file. It's all global. So it won't allow us to do it. Sure. Can we write something that does the replacement here? Sure, we can. But inside of Python 3.13, well, I think we're on 3.11 right now.
Hmm.
uh, it has a parameter on that API that allows you to say, I think I forget the name. It's like ignore no section names. And so it allows us to write to this file, even if it's not laid out in sections, which is what we need. Because if we put in a section here like I had, um,
Breaks the
such as
breaks the
default,
module.
yes, it will not allow it to load. So I'm leaning towards like bumping up our Python version to 3.13, unless there's some reason why we can't. So that's the only problem. It's not a big problem. I mean, worst case scenario, we can write something that just looks for the attribute that we need to change and change it. But I would love this to be able to reuse an existing library if we could. So that's it. That's the problem.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if we feel about it one way or another, but I think that's the only thing.
Yeah, I think we'll probably go with the yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit, but we might go with the short-term change and then come back to it and restructure those as we were talking about with the separate database and separate database connection file and everything.
Yeah. So
Great overview though.
yeah. So we'll just go through we'll do a quick fix and then we'll come back and because these are like you said, these are going to go away because we're going to move to
Well, they're
we're
not
going to
going
move.
away, but they're going to go to a separate
Yes.
database that's isolated for just the dSIPRouter stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So that stuff is going to be segmented. So that's the good thing. But I think moving to this settings configuration is going to allow us to, it's going to allow us to do some things that we haven't been able to. Well, I won't say that. Well, it's not like it's going to do things. It's not going to let us do things before. But I think what it's going to do is going to give people um, who aren't necessarily, because I hear it from people a lot of times like, I don't want to mess with the settings file or I don't want to go to the command line. I think this is going to give people the ability to like make these changes without having to worry about like logging in and using VI or using Nano or something that they're not comfortable with. So I'm hoping this becomes something that people really use.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great addition.
For sure. All right. So what else, Tyler? I'll leave it up to you. What else is exciting for you? So we talked about settings. What anything big for you?
Yeah, so Mac gave us the long-winded version. I have just some short version of some of the stuff that I'm focusing on right now for the release. The top priority ones for me right now are the active Fusion PBX support. That one's a little bit tricky. We talked about that in another episode. So if you want to go back to there, I'll link that in the show description as well. And the adaptive firewall. So that's going to be a really cool feature. The adaptive firewall is also going to be on all tiers. So that one will be not just on any of the higher licenses. It'll be available to everybody. So really cool. That's going to have concurrent call limiting, CPS limiting. It's going to have the auth I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but auth limiting and adapting that to the firewall. And it's also going to integrate API ban. So it's going to be a really cool feature. A lot of people have been asking for similar things to that. So the other hot ticket items that I got a few, but the PJ-SIP connections, that's been a bigger issue recently as FreePBX dropped ChanSIP support. We had some issues with kind of how the normal workflow is in setting up authentication as a trunk from dSIPRouter. So we want to kind of get that that documentation updated, and if there's any way to make that setup easier, we're going to go ahead and get that all fixed up because we want to make sure that's super easy, super simple. FreePBX is really popular. A lot of people are using it, so want to make sure that that's a high-class citizen or first-class citizen, I think is Your favorite
My
word there, Mac?
terminology. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then the last two that I'm focusing on right now, they're high priority, is CDRs at the dialogue level. So we did some updates to CDR's last release. This is going to be another big update. We are pulling the CDRs from the old accounting format and structure to the dialogue level, where it's all going to be a CDR, one CDR record per call, and it gives us a lot of flexibility there. Basically, moving to the new architecture, and we're going to add in some changes that customers have been asking for, like the final formatting and fixing any issues with writing those. It is really nice bringing it up to dialogue level because all those all those variables that are stored throughout the call. It could be, at an invite, at a reinvite. It could be at the final buy. You can kind of pull all those together and then format it into the CDR at the very end. And then the
And,
last
and,
thing.
and I think the
Yep.
CDR is going to be good because right now, for people who don't know, if you're not at like mad scale, you probably don't know. But if you're at mad scale, there's processing that has to happen in order to match the invites with the buys. And that's how it comes
Mhm.
up with the CDRs today. But the way Tyler's doing it, moving to this new architecture, I think this is going to make things a lot more performant and allow people to scale up a lot easier. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm happy to see that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll hit on that a little bit. So, before with the accounting, it's like per transaction, you're cutting a record, and then those get kind of like folded down or post processed into a CDR, one record for that whole call. And it's a lot simpler and less resource intensive to just take all of your state that was put into the dialogue and then just cut that one single CDR at the end. So yeah, pretty excited for that one. We tested that with quite a few new custom deployments that we've done. So I'm very, very excited, and we know that works very well to get that one out. All right, and the last one that's really exciting is the SBC routing. So, quick little primer for everybody who is not familiar with the SIP RFC. The two primary in dialogue routing scenarios or methods that they outline are strict routing and loose routing. Loose routing, people are probably more familiar with, is stateful. It has record routes, route headers, and those are like popped on, popped off the message, and it steers the message to where it needs to go. Strict routing, there's no record routing in there. It can be stateless, and it's just the message comes in, it gets looked at, it gets fired off. Very simple. What we found is that throughout the years, we've needed sort of like a glue in between those as customers get more complex, like routing scenarios, or just devices that don't play nice with don't handle record routing properly. So we've kind of implemented some dialogue level processing there already. And what we're doing is making that a first class citizen here. It's going to be a full feature. Calling it SBC writing right now. Up to debate on the name there, but yeah, it's going to be a new routing method, or not just routing within dialogue handling. So all those messages after the 200 on that invite, basically those are going to be using these types of methods, and this SBC routing is a new one. Kind of like a quick overview of how that works is it's going to pin your destination and source when the call is set up successfully, and then the like contacts, the request URI, all that stuff is stored when it's set up. And then throughout that dialogue, whenever more messages are sent either way, those are just looked back up. So there's no record routes, there's no route headers. You don't really have to worry about endpoints not being able to handle that properly, or like legacy systems. It's just stored in state. So it's pretty minimal. little bit more processing, but it's really reliable, and we've been kind of playing with that and testing that out over like a lot of different environments, and I'm really excited to finally get that out as a full feature.
I think because we have it in like little bits and pieces right now, like where for the Microsoft Teams module we do some of that, right? But it's only for specifically Microsoft Teams. So I think that having this feature out, and then now other use cases such as Microsoft Teams will be able to use that feature as needed. So I'm excited too, because it just takes it off of being like a only like a single threaded use case for it. Now it can be used across multiple use cases. So I'm excited for it. And thank you for working on that, because that's a big one as well.
Yeah, that
Um,
one's taken a lot of experience and testing to like understand the best way to actually do it. Because it's basically like adding to the RFC, and maybe eventually we will put that back in the RFC or something. I don't know, but
yeah,
um, yeah, really
no,
interesting.
that's
What
good.
else are you excited for, Mac? I know we're at like 30 minutes here, but
Yeah, it's all good. This was good stuff. We had to get through some of this, and I think hopefully people appreciate it. I see people popping on and off the chat here, so it's great. No, that's really it, man. Just working on getting some of these things out. Numbers is another thing I've been working on, and really trying to get that to a point where I'm happy with and can support that. I
mm,
think that is the those things there. I think I just want people to be I just want people to go into using DSIP in a way that will be. I don't want them to feel like, oh man, I got to go to a command line to make some changes, or I got to do this. So I think we're just both of us are both just trying to figure out how to make it easier for people to start, adopting DSIP, and not have to get into little hurdles and issues that they run into. I mean, they're not going to all go
mhm.
away, but we're trying to make things simpler as we go. So that's it, man. Yeah, unless there's anything else, man, we'll be back. If hopefully we'll be back next week before the holiday. Maybe we'll get one more in before the holiday. But yeah, besides that, man, everybody enjoy the holiday if we don't talk to you.
Yeah.
All right.
All
All right.
right,
Take
signing
care.
off. See you guys.
Signing off.